Welcome to Talk to Brazil with Tom Rioch, the business connector to business in Brazil. Welcome to Talk to Brazil, the business connection, the world's first English language internet radio program about business in Brazil, starting in 2009 and in podcast format since March 2019. I'm Tom Rioch, an American living in Brazil for many years and known as the King of Network, and talking from my home studio in Campinas, São Paulo, Brazil. Today's guest is Marco Linhares. Marco is founder and CEO of Voix, which is the game to fight prejudice. He's a specialist in school and workplace bullying. Marco was a guest last year on Talk to Brazil, and also during the year on our sister podcast, BBN Brazil in Portuguese. Marco and I met a year ago at Venture Hub, which is an innovation hub here in Campinas, where Marco was developing Voix, and I started the development of BBN Brazil podcast. And we shared space at the Venture Hub and had very many interesting conversations together, and that led to my interviewing him. So with that, I want to say hello, Marco, and welcome again to Talk to Brazil.
Hello, Tom. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here again. It's about almost 1 year, yeah?
Yeah. And as we know, a year really passes very quickly, right? And since we first talked, in this meantime, you traveled to Denmark, you traveled to Silicon Valley in the United States, you participated in Singularity University, you continued your development of Voix. So bring us up to date of where are you with the project and development in your fight against prejudice.
Okay, so it's been a year, and this last year was crazy. A lot of things happened. I changed the way on how I approach things. So a year before, right now, I was going to Singularity University to develop and improve our work of Voix. So far, we had been in almost more than 50 schools doing this voluntary work about bullying and playing the game we've developed with the kids, with parents, with teachers, teaching them on how to approach bullying, how to fight racism, gender inequality, cyberbullying, how to talk about social issues. Mm-hmm. And when we reached Singularity, they said, "Oh, that's incredible, the work you've done in 50 schools, but let me ask you, how can you solve bullying worldwide? Mm-hmm. How can you solve bullying in Brazil? And the way you are doing, you're not going to solve it." Yeah, right. It's funny. Because when you go almost any place, and you talk about your big goals, your dreams, people say, "Oh, this is not up for you. You're dreaming too high." But they say,
I understand that.
Yeah, they have expression here in Brazil like "cut your wings." No, go low. But there they say, "Oh, that's nice, but that's only what you want to do, that's your dream. You can dream a lot bigger, and we're gonna help you to achieve these bigger goals." So we changed the way we approach. We were focusing a lot on the game, and now we changed our vision to accelerate the world to a society without prejudice and bullying. And we do this by developing tools.
Right.
So everything was about the game before, and now the game is one of the tools we are building. And we started building another tools as well.
Just for our listeners, I want to clarify that. That's an interesting point, because Singularity University, for those who may not be familiar with it, the Singularity University is also a university that has an objective, right, to develop and help persons, but to reach solutions for what they say 1 billion people, right? So yes. The denominator is really 1 billion. And when I first met you and first talked to you, and I remember those conversations, when we start talking about 1 billion, For normal people like myself and most of our listeners, 1 billion is a number that's really hard to put our arms around, right? Even though we're in a world that's almost 8 billion inhabitants. But our normal contact in daily events, we interact with maybe 100 or 200 people. So when anybody comes with an objective and like yours, you want to reach people, then Singularity asks you, and they did ask you, how are you going to reach 1 billion? That's mind-boggling sometimes. Just the dimension of that, and then I agree with you. You need to change the type of tool, because knocking on doors of schools individually to convince them is a time-consuming process, not only for Voix, for anything. So you really have to find tools that can grow very quickly and reach many people. Is that part of your process?
Yes. So exactly that. It's a totally different way to approach the problem, because we cannot, as entrepreneurs, we cannot work more. Yeah, if we keep doing, it's not about working more or harder. It's approaching the problem in a different way.
Right.
So this step is more like we have to imagine how the world is going to be in 10 years, because our goal is to reach 1 billion people in 10 years. So at the same time, we imagine 10 years and we start working backwards. Mm-hmm. And from now to 2030, we start working towards this year. And we meet the solutions together in the middle. So we still have to survive as a company, but at the same time, we must be researching these tools that we are going to take them out of the market in 2 or 3 years. This is like, how do you survive in an exponential world?
So well, that's a good point, the exponential world. And recently you made a presentation to a group of business persons here that I'm also part of, the Future Advisory Board, where you came and talked about exactly that, exponential growth, right? And really show exponential growth is sort of literally like a rocket taking off, right? Because most of us business persons are used to growth, but not in the way that you exposed and showed us, of really huge jumps in anything, right? And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, when we talk about growth, most people, okay, if we reach 10% growth, it's awesome. But they question us there, 10%? How can you reach 10x growth?
Right.
It's totally different. You have number 10, if you add 10%, you have 11. If you 10 times is 100, so it's a whole different approach.
No, I think that was clear for us and the persons listening to you, and I'm sure it is for other persons as you go out, because you traveled around Brazil talking about that. But it does take time for that to be assimilated by people, because like you said, if you're talking about 10% growth for a company, most companies are talking about incremental growth of 3 to 5%. You're talking about the gross national product. You're talking about percentages that are 1 or 2%. So for somebody to come and talk about 1,000 or 2,000%, they really can't grasp that.
Yeah, exactly that. So we approach it this way that I told you. You still have to survive, but at the same time, you do this research to a new product and you use these exponential technologies.
Yeah, because what you're saying, the population's growing, right? In this last year, the population has grown. And if we're talking about prejudice, if we're talking about bullying, and you mentioned that before we came on the air, unfortunately, that too is growing, right? We can't say today that there's less bullying and less prejudice. There's actually more. So really, this need to have new and more modern and faster tools is a requirement.
Yeah, the way to approach it is like there is this wave of technology, exponential technologies, and we must be on this wave, to use these technologies to spread the word, spread our solution worldwide.
But how do you convince people? That's a question that I have in talking specifically about bullying. The persons that I know, situations that I've been in, even in school or businesses. We're talking about bullying in school, but bullying in the workplace is as critical as bullying in school. And there just may be more of it, I don't know. But everybody thinks that the problem is not in their community, it's somewhere else, right? And most people think that they're not actually persons who bully, but they might be. And we see examples of bullying constantly, both in school and the workplace. Now, how do you change that mindset?
Yeah, so it's a very, very funny question, because when we talk about social impact projects, nobody's going to say, oh, what you're doing is bad. Everybody's going, oh, that's incredible, that's awesome. But when it comes for invest in you, they say, oh, okay, no, I don't have money, I have other priorities. So we realized that by reaching schools to talk about bullying was not good. Mm-hmm. We could enter school, but we could never go there to do a big project. So we changed the approach, and now we talk about exponential technologies and future work. Mm-hmm. And we start doing in schools, in companies, in universities as well, because people are very worried about all these technologies replacing jobs. Right. And for kids, they are preparing for a world that doesn't even exist. So what is important are these social and emotional skills, like creativity, like improving tolerance and fighting bullying. And so we just changed the approach. It's about the same thing that we talk. We added technologies now. We talked about how to make bigger impact, mm-hmm. the way we. But it's about the same, about these skills that we need. And we don't talk specifically about bullying, but bullying is in this package. It's about the same thing, but we have a very beautiful package now that people are very interested.
I think that's important. I think that's a good change that you made because, as I mentioned, one of the things that's come out, if we're talking several years ago, cyberbullying didn't even exist because cyber didn't exist, right? We're talking about schools and companies. Now today, everything is a cyber world. And today we could be bullied by somebody on the other side of the world, where in the recent past we were bullied by somebody in our neighborhood or maybe at our job. But today it comes from everywhere, and it comes massively and instantly.
Yeah, for sure.
But this approach, how do people understand exponential growth? Because that's a concept that for many people I think is obviously new. How do you help people understand what that really means?
Yeah, it's very hard because I gave you in a speech this example. If you do exponential steps, in a few steps you reach the sun. It's very crazy. If you do like 20 steps, you'll still be on Earth, but in a few more you are in the sun. So it's very hard. We evolved for millions of years in a linear world. We died, our ancestors died, the world was the same. But now every 10 years is not even a generation. Every 10 years is completely changed how we solve problems, how we reach people. We must understand that the world is evolving. And we must be, and our mind is not. But our solutions must be. So it's very hard. It's this approach that you are killing your solutions and making ones that's 10 times better.
But with this change that you've made, and I've seen because I follow you, you've been able to really travel quite a bit throughout Brazil, speaking more, explaining more, and promoting more your approach, as you said, through exponential growth, and then bringing people in the back door regarding prejudice. So is that part of the factor? Things grow on themselves the more you hear the new concept, you're being recommended, people bringing you into different environments. Obviously, singularity, the fact that you went to singularity, that's a big plus for you, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It opened my mind. And also, the second part of the program is inside NASA. So it's unbelievable what I heard there. And when I came back, I started talking to people about this experience. Oh my God, this experience NASA, and I was so excited about it that I was volunteering. Hey, can I talk about this incredible world we're gonna live? And then it was not expected. I just wanted to do 1 or 2 or 3, but everybody kept calling me, and we're 16 so far. Speeches about this incredible world. We also started a course at my university about happiness.
Right, really, that's very recent. That's something literally 2 weeks ago, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's very good. We didn't know if we were gonna have like 20 people to attend the class, but on the first week we had more than 100, and in the end we reached almost 500 people interested in the course, but only sent 100 places.
Well, but how did what was happiness? You came to talk about happiness through your fight to prejudice?
Yeah, remember that I told you about this new package?
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about the social and emotional skills. And this one we focus on happiness. But it's all about, improving tolerance, respect, empathy, and knowing about this journey. That's most of the time the journey is not going to go the way we want, but we must be good with ourselves, So how you deal with this hero's journey?
Well, that impressed because I saw recently that beginning of the course showed up on the local television channel, and they had a report about that. It was interesting to see everybody smiling and really happy that they were there taking part. And just the fact you were talking about happiness in a world that's sort of depressed and always talking, we were talking before, everybody's talking about what's wrong, not what's right. So bringing focus to happiness, bringing focus to what makes people happy is really something different.
Yes. Also, I went to Silicon Valley. Before that, I visited Harvard and MIT. And I just said, hey, we are no different from them, Maybe they have resources, but the same thing could be done in Brazil. And that's why I had this idea, and we had to start in Brazil, because what I saw in another country, I realized that we are no different. We are human beings. So there is no difference between me and you. We do different things, but we could do this very well in Brazil. And so we started with this idea. This is a concept that I brought from Harvard. They doing this course about happiness there for 10 years. Mm-hmm. It's the best course they have there. So we started that. And also what opened doors is the documentary, and we are producing a documentary and series about bullying. So the way to solve bullying is to get the best people in the country and then the best people in every country to talk about these problems. So we realized that a good way, and I focused a lot on after I came back from Singularity University, is to create. So we are creating a documentary and a series with the best specialists in Brazil to talk about this. This is everything is non-profit. We are distributing for free for people and for schools to use this material.
So that's becoming your super tool, right?
Yes. We are building a platform around that. And we have very good names. And it's funny because when you have a very big social impact, a very big dream, you get the best people to join you. So I encourage people to dream big, because when you have big goals, people, oh my God, this is incredible. I want to be part of this. We got the best specialists in Brazil, names like Rossandro Kinsley, Fabrício Carpinejal, El Freiman, Moja Cohen. These names, we couldn't even reach them before, but they wanted to be part of this project because, it's something big and just to help a lot of people in Brazil.
I think to start, what you mentioned is important. Have a dream, right? Because I think that's the first and most important step. So if you have that and you transform that dream into a target and objectives and communicate it well as you're doing, I can see that, you attract people. But you have to share your dream. There's no sense of waking up in the morning, so I had a really nice dream, and you don't tell anybody about it.
Yes. So we have this question last week in the happiness course we're doing. They say, hey, do we really need a purpose? Can't we have like a very simple life? And we were thinking for a moment and said, yes, you can have a simple life. But imagine like eating rice. You can eat rice, only cook and eat, but you can put some spice, some salt on it. And
right. Right.
About this salt you put, if you have a purpose in your life, you can be happier, you can do a lot more impact. And I think life has a purpose if you realizing it or not, and we can do a lot more than we can think of. We can be linear, but we can also be exponential. And with this purpose and acting in this way towards this future we want to build, we can do a lot more. And that's why I got really excited about this idea and doing all these things now.
I agree with you, because we saw that last year again when we were together at the Innovation Hub, and really a year ago we're talking about startups that were literally starting up, right? The whole concept of startup is a couple years old here. And what you said is real. Persons realizing that they can have a dream. They can do that. They can organize. And we had other colleagues there that have become very successful in this same time frame. Others have not, because I guess they just didn't want to put salt on their rice. But people who decide to spice up life can reach success very quickly, and maybe not necessarily on the path that you originally dreamed, like you're doing. You start out talking about a game. Now you've seen that a game becomes a tool. And really what you're doing, you've just created or helped create a large toolbox that needs more tools.
Sure, and we can not only we build the tools, but we can get tools from other people and build up this whole platform that people can access and ask for help.
So the base of what you need today and what everybody needs every day, you need people to come on board and talking about the documentary that you're in the midst of in that series. So you do need sponsorship. Obviously, there's no free lunch, right? The rice doesn't come free and the salt doesn't come free. So you need help with sponsorship, right? So for people, our listeners, to understand more and to help you, is the best point to come and converge and is your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, sure. So this documentary and series, and we are already finishing the recording of the first season. We are doing with a cultural law in Brazil. Mm-hmm. It was known as Lei Rouanet law. And people can sponsor us for free because they get cash back from taxes.
Oh, very good. But to find that information then is to find you on LinkedIn. And for our listeners, you will find him as Marco Antonio Linhares. That's MarcoAntonio. And the last name is Linhares. So Marco Antonio Linhares on LinkedIn. And also, you mentioned to me before, Instagram is a good way to find you, right?
Yes.
And that's Marco, MarcoBlBr. Again, MarcoBlBr on Instagram, where Marco posts a number of different things to be able to update yourself on this. Is that it, Marco?
Yes. That's it.
So it's a pleasure again talking to you, and a year later and seeing you in the midst and following your development. I want to congratulate you again. I think you're a person who inspires. You've helped me understand more what exponential growth is all about. And we'll be following you continually here, both on Talk to Brazil and on BBN Brazil podcast, okay?
Yes, and also it's very nice to see that we are together in a network of people that dream big and are going towards this goal. It's very nice to see. I think I was like the first interviewee you had.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, and right now you have dozens and maybe reaching like 100 in Talking to Brazil and BBN. your podcast. So it's
No,
very amazing.
and what you said is exactly true. Both Talk to Brazil and BBN are on multiple platforms for podcast. And what I have recently seen, talking about exponential growth and reaching billions, my podcasts are available in China through Spotify. And Spotify is one of the very, very few platforms open for listeners in China. And we're talking about billions of people. So that is part of my understanding of what exponential growth is. You know, there are billions of people, but we do have to understand what is the path to open up what you have to reach them. It's just not automatic. There, you said we have 24 hours and 7 days a week, but you have to adjust each one of your minutes to success.
Yes, and you found the channel, you know. It's not about the work you do, it's how about you can reach these people.
Right.
And you found a way to get your impact in 1 billion people. So that's amazing, and I'm very happy to be close to you and also to see all this progress from Talk to Brazil.
We're happy to help each other. I think that's when we talk about a collaborative environment, a collaborative world, that's the way it should work.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Marco, thanks again. I know you're busy off to your documentary and talking and interacting with the world. So, again, we'll be seeing and talking to you in the near future, okay?
Yeah, sure, Thomas. It was a pleasure and honor again.
So thank you again, and I want to thank our listeners and our audience and also our sponsorship, which is Focus MI Market Intelligence, and Focus MI specializes in market research for the Brazilian agricultural market. And more about them on their site, which is focusmi.com. And visit our website, which is talktobrazil.com. That's TALK, the number 2, BRAZIL.com. And there you'll find our previous shows of Talk to Brazil. Remember, when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Goodbye, and thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Tom Rioch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.